This is Motorsport Radio. Join the conversation. Contact the show on Twitter, on Facebook, and on our website, Motorsport Radio.
Hello and welcome. This is the Superbike Show. It's Motorsport Radio. My name is Lester. Thank you very much for tuning in. Well, we've got loads of hot button divisive topics to get through tonight on the show, and joining us once again to help dissect everything in a totally non-controversial fashion this week, it is Luke Newman from Motorsport Radio. Hello, Luke.
Hello, Lester.
How have you been? What have you been up to?
Not too bad, just writing a couple articles.
Yes, check them out on our website, motorsport.radio. And also joining us, it is sometimes racer at Knockhill and sometimes commentator, and anything else that he's not told us that he also does as well. It's Lewis Ray. No relation to Jonathan, though. Hello, Lewis.
Even Lester.
How are you?
Pretty good. Just been getting ready for this weekend at Fab, getting some notes ready.
Oh yeah, nice. I was slip that in there because this weekend, Motorsport Radio will once again have live coverage from the Road to MotoGP feeder series, Fab Racing, the British Mini Bikes Championship. That's Fab Racing, live from Clay Pigeon. It's round four in the championship. I know these things. And we'll have live coverage all weekend, and basically the best talent of the future. You can tune in this weekend and watch them race live with Lewis's commentary as well. Okay there, and some such.
Aye.
What? Aye. So anyway, but yes, apart from that, we've got loads of other things to talk about. Not limited to, but including what Lynn Jarvis thinks about the old penalty, and what you guys think of it as well. If you've got any opinions on it, could it be rescinded? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe let us know. Get in touch. Hashtag Motorsport Radio on the Facebook, the YouTube, the Twitter, the Twitch, and anywhere else that we're also streaming this as well. Podcast as well, in your ears. Take us with you on the road. Why not? Let's begin then, shall we? All the biggest news read expertly by Luke Newman.
The historic Dutch TT of Assen delivered another thrilling MotoGP race on the weekend. Francesco Bagnaia left the Netherlands as this year's race winner, becoming the first Ducati rider to win a MotoGP race at Assen since Casey Stoner in 2008. Augusto Fernandez claimed back-to-back Moto2 wins, as a week after he won the German Grand Prix, he clinched victory in Assen. After 95 Grand Prix starts, Ayumu Sasaki is finally a race winner in Moto3. The Japanese rider showed his true talent as he beat the ever-consistent Isan Guevara. Gresini Racing have announced that Fabio Di Gianantonio will be staying with the team for 2023, and Alex Marquez will make the switch from LCR Honda to join the squad next season. Alvaro Bautista and Aruba.it Racing Ducati have decided that they will continue their partnership and have extended Bautista's contract for the 2023 season. It's finally official that Taron McKenzie and the Mackenzie Yamaha team will be making a wildcard appearance at the Donington Park World Superbike Round in July. And that's all from the latest news.
Fantastic news on Taron McKenzie there, Lewis. We weren't entirely shocked, so we were expecting it to be announced, or we thought it was going to be a possibility. But still, great news.
Yeah, it's great news, and not only for Taron, but just for the British Superbike as a whole, because if Taron can start getting maybe a couple points finishes this weekend, we could start to see the change back to British Superbike riders making the step up to World Superbikes as a wild card. Yeah,
there's been quite a few. It's traditionally quite a lot. I don't know off the top of my head how many so far. I know the which is the support class, the Junior Super Sport.
Yeah.
Yes, that one. Yeah. That's the support class, but I don't know in terms of Brits. Right, Leon Haslam, I think, is confirmed. Tara McKenzie now.
There, yeah.
And is there any more Brits doing a wild card at Donington?
Not that I know of.
Not that I'm aware of.
Expect maybe perhaps a surprise announcement. This is based on nothing at all. It's previous history. But maybe OMG Racing, Rich Energy OMG, perhaps. They might.
I think they had mentioned it, but I think they had mentioned it briefly, but I don't think they've said anything official in a statement or anything like more than just rumours, really.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if they dip their toe in World Superbikes with Brad or Kyle or both in the near future. But anyway, yeah, World Superbikes, that's good. And the announcement which came after last week's show, almost as if they were kind of sort of watching. Really, we'll get into talking about it in more detail, Luke. But Marquez off to Gresini. Alex.
Yeah, the younger brother Alex. Yeah, he's decided to leave the Honda nest as such and leave his older brother behind, and he's off to ride for Ducati, which is a big step for Alex to take. But hopefully he'll do well for his career's sake.
Again, we will talk about it in more detail later on, but we now diving into the big debate from the weekend, and that was the Assen. What happened there in let's start off with MotoGP. Luke,
I guess we might as well go straight in for the big debate that occurred. Fabio Quartararo crashing out in lap 3, I think, at turn 5, and taking Aleix Espargaro to the gravel trap with him. Both riders rejoined. Aleix finished 4th. Fabio didn't end up finishing the race after high-siding himself, again, out of turn 5. Mm-hmm. But Fabio has picked up a penalty for the British Grand Prix of a long lap, which has sparked a lot of controversy and debate on Twitter about whether it should have been penalised.
So just explain then the controversy for those who aren't entirely on top of things. Why is it controversial, and should it stand?
It's controversial mainly because we've had moves earlier on in the season, such as Nakagami in Catalonia, where he took out riders who were in the championship at the time, Pecco Bagnaia and Alex Rins, who's not as much in the championship, but still a top rider. And that wasn't penalised, his move of taking out those two. But Fabio's genuine attempt at an overtake, which was from a reasonably far distance back, so it was an ambitious overtake, to say the least. But if he didn't take out Aleix, he didn't ruin his race. It didn't look like Aprilia or Aleix Espargaro were too bothered. So controversy comes mainly from the consistency from race direction for if they're going to penalise someone who didn't take out a fellow competitor, didn't really ruin their race, and then not penalise a rider who took out 2 riders in a race, one who's fighting for the championship, and he also injured Rins, going back to the Nakagami incident in Catalonia, which didn't get penalised.
Is that a fair point, Lewis? And where do you stand on the current penalisation situation?
Yeah, I would say that's a completely fair point. I mean, it was a highly ambitious move, to be honest. The door was always going to shut for Fabio, but at the end of the day, it's racing, and Fabio said on social media himself that if he's going to get penalised for stuff like that, he's just going to stop trying to make their moves. So it's not really sending the right message to the riders. It's almost telling them not to, race and make certain overtakes that, if he made them overtake stick, it would have been an incredible overtake. So maybe you can look at it from both sides. But I completely agree with the consistency side of things, and it's more the consistency in the MotoGP grid, because we've seen that the Stewarts are quite heavy-handed on the Moto3 and Moto2 riders if they do something wrong. But on the MotoGP grid, it seems that sometimes they just hold back on penalties for some incident to then slap riders for a penalty for something very, very similar.
Possibly, yeah. That they may have just been trying to emphasise the point that, yeah, we don't mind you making the moves, just don't crash, for example.
I mean, but then you can argue that, but again, going back to Taka's incident, which was a turn one move, and that as well was definitely over ambitious. He came from, I can't remember where exactly on the grid, but far back on the grid to try and pass Bagnaia, who was on the front row, and Renzi was on the second row, and the move was never on. Whereas Fabio's, like Lewis said, there was a chance it would have worked, whereas Taka's wouldn't have from his manoeuvres. But Fabio, I don't think deserved the penalty for consistency reasons.
Ooh. So, Lewis, in your point of view, do you think he deserved a penalty?
Well, if they give Taka a penalty, I would definitely say yes. Although the move could have got made individually, a great move.
Yeah, if
I judged it individually, I would probably lean towards yes. And although that's slightly controversial in itself, he still came from super far back. He didn't show his front wheel acceleration until basically the last second, where it was too late, and he ended up crashing on the floor.
Okay. A lot of the debate potentially has been mixed up with comparing incidents, and really, as a steward, you shouldn't really be comparing and sort of having some philosophical debate about, oh yes, well, this incident was similar to one that happened previous and we didn't do much then, therefore we can't do much now. You got to really judge everything individually on its own case at the time, and sometimes it might not be the same as when you penalised that guy last time round, or it might be different, or vice versa. So, I mean, look, if anything previously was put aside and was never compared, how would you judge what happened and his mistake, really, if you were the student?
My first reaction when I was watching it live was that he would get penalised. That was my very first reaction of watching it. But yeah, if you don't compare it to other things, I do think it was overly ambitious. And it is a tough one to call. I wouldn't want to be a steward in this situation, but I think I would lean towards a potential penalty. But then, like Fabio said as well, if they go a bit too overboard with penalties every now and then riders will be scared to make good moves that entertain the public and make people want to watch MotoGP.
So you both agree with the stewards. That's good. Anyway, so let's... but yeah, I mean... team boss, Lynn Jarvis, what did he say exactly?
He was not happy.
He was not happy. I'm just trying to read here. There was a statement published on MotoGP website. He said they're disappointed to see the inequality with penalties applied by the MotoGP stewards panel. Whilst Quartararo admitted to making a mistake in turn 5, yada, 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 reading on, they very much view it as a racing incident. And Quartararo has the reputation of being a clean rider, even though he crashed, without the track record of previous incidents. You know what? Just take the penalty, shut your face.
They'd even talked about taking it to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. So they were... heavily offended by it, but I don't think they're being allowed to take it that far, which is the right move, because at the end of the day, it's for the British Grand Prix, and if you watched the British Grand Prix last year, you know Fabio absolutely dominated it, so he'd probably do the same again this year. Whoa. And I doubt a long lap penalty will affect him much.
Don't jinx it. I mean, you do have previous for jinxing things. Good luck.
Make the championship more exciting.
Good luck is all I'll say, interestingly. But yeah, it's a waste of time them pursuing it. And I mean, I understand. Obviously, he's got to do a job and stick up for his guy. But yeah, ultimately, a bit of a waste of time for them to pursue it, probably because, well, he was the one who made the mistake. You can't take some you can't take yourself to the court of arbitration and say that you can't be, it was your mistake that you made. You can't say, oh yeah, but I mean, I did it, and yeah, it was my fault. I mean, so what am I complaining about again? Yeah, so yeah, shut up and get on with it, basically. And we'd love to see Fabio making his way through the field, wouldn't we? So
yeah.
There you go. So yeah, incidentally, the British Grand Prix, will that be on ITV? I think it will again this year.
Yeah.
Won't it? That's already confirmed. I knew that. So that will be good. ITV and presumably Moto 2 and Moto 3. And yeah, and hopefully you get a good trackside commentary as well if you're at the event. That'll be interesting to find out who's actually going to the event, and maybe looking at a topic that was very popular in previous Superbike show history: how much it costs to be at the Silverstone British Grand Prix in MotoGP. It's always an interesting topic of conversation, but that's for later. Because also other stuff happened in MotoGP. We'll get to Moto 3 later. Luke, tell us what else.
I mean, this story got overshadowed massively by the Quartararo thing, and it was the VR46 team took a 1-2 basically. Pecco Bagnaia won the race for Factory Ducati, obviously a VR46 Academy rider, and Marco Bezzecchi, who is a MotoGP rookie on a GP21 Ducati, took second place around Assen, which was a very good showing for those two Italian boys. And also, Maverick Vinales is back on the podium after 16 races, and this is the third manufacturer that Vinales is still on the podium with.
Decent. What are your thoughts, Lewis?
Yeah, it was a great race and great for Ducati. I mean, it was Ducati's second ever win around Assen, which is just a crazy statistic. But it's also just a showing that the VR46 Academy is working now that they're having a 1-2 in MotoGP, and that, well, it's great to see Maverick. I haven't seen Maverick with such a big smile on his face in such a long time. But yeah, it was just Assen being Assen and producing great racing all weekend.
Yeah. Luke, didn't you write Vinales off earlier in the season? Or am I thinking of something
I may have
else?
done earlier in the season thinking about it, but for the race, I know for this weekend.
Slightly disparaging, something along the lines of he should sort of do one. Or,
I don't know if I would have gone that far with Vinales, because I know he has a lot of talent, but I probably would have, at the start of the season, potentially have written him off, which a lot of people did as well at the start of the season. But for the race, I have to give Lewis credit. He called the first and third position right in his predictions, which was a good showing.
Yeah, just remind us, Lewis, of who you predicted for the race win.
My predictions were Bagnaia winning the race, Quartararo second, and Maverick Vinales third.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I was cheering on Maverick practically that whole race, especially on the final couple of laps against Jack Miller.
And Luke, just remind us who you had down for the win.
Jack Miller.
Miller?
No, yeah. I remember. I was thinking it'd be a wet race at the time, because that's what the forecast was saying. So I went Miller, Quartararo, and Zarco was my podium prediction.
Interesting.
And Zarco flopped it massively.
Oh well, and I cleverly didn't. I don't think I did make a prediction.
No.
I don't think you did.
No. It's, oh well.
I'm biased.
You're allowed to be, I suppose. Why not? Okay, yeah. So other stuff that happened then, Vinales and Quartararo. Yeah, Luke. What was other big talking points from MotoGP at Assen?
Alicia Spargaro is another massive talking point. Me personally, I believe he had his greatest ever MotoGP ride at Assen. I know he's won a race at Argentina, and he only finished 4th at Assen, but he dropped back to 15th place after being put into the gravel by Quartararo, and by the end of the race he managed to come all the way back up to 4th, and his last corner overtake into the GT chicane on Binder and Miller was incredible, to be honest. It was ambitious and it worked.
Lewis, your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Luke said. It was an incredible ride by Aleix Espargaro, better than his win, I would say, as well. It was just consistent every single lap. He just put in the pace, made overtakes, and he used his head. He didn't push too hard and crash out. And that last lap overtake in the last corner was just something incredible. 2 bikes at one corner, and yeah, it's great to see. I think that's the main reason probably why Aprilia and Aleix Espargaro wasn't too bothered with getting taken out. It's just the pure pace and the result that they got at the end of it after getting taken out. But I think it's left everyone wondering what would have happened if Aleix never got taken out at the start of the race, because they clearly had pace.
Yeah, I just backing up what you said there. I think Aleix had race-winning pace. I think if he hadn't have been put into the gravel by Quartararo, that would have been his race to win. I don't think Pecco had the pace compared to him, and I think maybe what came into Aleix's favour is there was some rain during the race. There wasn't, I wouldn't say Assen downpours like we've had in the past, looking back to the likes of 2016 when Jack Miller won there, but that would probably put off some riders who were ahead of him, who aren't as experienced as him, whereas Aleix has been in MotoGP for a long time now, and just kept his calm and found his way through the field and did an amazing job.
Quite decent indeed. Brad Binder, KTM in the top 6. That combo doing all right at the weekend?
Yeah, Brad Binder, again, just he isn't a Saturday man. He is definitely a pure racer. His qualifying struggles, but then the KTM does struggle to qualify. But he's just a very aggressive, but knows the limit of overtake rider. So he's once again very impressive. I think he's like top 5 in the championship now as well. So he's going under he's 6th in the championship, sorry. He's going under the radar this season, really, of putting in some great performances without being on the podium every week. And Oliveira in 9th, it doesn't sound a lot, but when you look on the grid, he lost all the wings on the right side of his bike. So to go through the whole race and finish 9th place was incredible for Oliveira, since some riders like Gardner, who's also on the KTM and has lost wings this season, has said that the bike is unrideable without wings on one side.
Red Bull gives you wings. That just advert pops up in my head. Lewis, your thoughts on Binder's performance in the race?
Yeah, it was a good performance from Binder, but once again, going back to the previous point, I think the rain really helped him, because we seen it last year at Austria that he knows how to ride in the wet and slick tires. So maybe just that downpour just gave him that extra confidence that people like Jorge Martin just didn't have. So it just helped. I think it helped him to his advantage, but nothing to take away from him. It's a great result, and it's a great result from KTM. I mean, we said in last week's show that they've been lacking results all season, but it's finally good to start seeing them in that battle for some podium positions.
Yeah, I would like to just point about the tech-free riders as well, who are on, I believe, equal machinery to the factory team. Gardner 19th, not a great showing from Gardner. He can do more, and hopefully he will do in the future, because it looks like he will stay with tech-free from what has been said. But Raul Fernandez, who pulled in from arm pump issues, looks like he's on his way at the end of the season, potentially back down to Moto2, because him and the KTM management have really fallen out this season, and he really didn't want to be on that bike this season. So looks like he's off next season, and apparently the door is open for Gardner to stay next season. So that's good for Remy.
Yeah, I mean, there's been quite a lot of talk recently that he could be going back down to Moto2, and to be honest, I think it would be the right decision. I mean, he's clearly not enjoying that KTM, and I think he wanted another year in Moto2, as we all know, and he made it very publicly clear that he didn't want to go to MotoGP this year, and that he wanted to end up on the Yamaha, actually. So there doesn't look to be a lot of seats going next year for riders. Even Chavasino Vietti is struggling to find a MotoGP ride, it seems. So I think Moto2 is probably the smartest decision, and just try win the championship there and then think about a return to MotoGP afterwards.
Yeah, I've just looked up quickly. He's still 21 years old. He's not old by any stretch of the imagination. He's still younger than a lot of the front runners in Moto2. So
yeah,
if he can go back there, but it's the thing of where will he go? The IO team won't have him back because they're KTM backed. So it's the thing of he will have to find a Moto2 seat and perform again next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now in MotoGP, there's more riders than what there are bikes. It's so difficult for all riders at the moment to try to find the seat. Even Joe Mir, although there was talks about him going to Honda, right now it's still completely unknown. Every single rider that's not got a ride confirmed is kind of unknown. We're hearing of riders speaking to teams, then the next minute them going to a different team or that spot getting snatched up. So MotoGP right now is a real game of musical chairs. So I think Moto2 will definitely suit him. And well, now it's really going to be a backlog of Moto2 riders, it would seem, waiting to go into MotoGP. So hopefully he can win a championship there, and then we get an extra slot into the MotoGP grid and see what's what then.
Yeah, as it stands, you said about the backlog. Sorry, let's jump in here, but it looks like only about 2 Moto2 riders might be coming up, and that looks like Gura and Vietti potentially are the only 2 that might make the step up. So it's a real shame, because there's the talent of Canet, Arbolino, Fernandez, Roberts that deserve a shot in MotoGP.
To be debated, potentially. Talking about Moto2, we've not finished with GP yet, but it was officially confirmed, even though it was teased in previous races. Your mate Lewis, Rory Skinner, confirmed as well. He might not be your mate. I don't know. Do you even know him? I don't know. I just presume all Scottish riders know each other. They probably do.
Nah, well, it's great seeing him for Scott going to MotoGP for this. Well, MotoGP paddock first off, but no, I don't know Rory personally, but I've spoken to his dad and I've watched him race up at Knockhill for many years, even just in club racing on 600s, and he's been previous on 125s and even a little Metric bike. So it's great to see him finally getting that opportunity that he frankly deserves. I mean, especially after his Talent Cup Championship victory, everyone was looking towards him for free, but he was left without a ride, and it was a real shame. So
yeah, we know
it's
all
great
about
seeing them finally up. Yeah, it's great to see them finally making the move up to the Grand Prix paddock, and hopefully he can show something so he can do like Jake Dixon did and make that jump from British Superbikes to the Grand Prix Moto2 Championship.
It was well pointed out by many people many times about the devastating injustice that Rory apparently suffered, but hey ho, he's definitely on his way to the right place. And could it just be the first of maybe potentially many Moto2 appearances by Rory Skinner? Well, let's just see. Let's not put too much pressure on him. But we'd like him to be there, would we not?
Well, he will. He will get two shots at it, one at Silverstone and one at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. So obviously Silverstone he'll know from British racing, and Red Bull Ring is a track with 10 corners, I believe. But on a Moto2 bike, it looks like a difficult track to get the hang of. But I'm sure Rory will get there quickly.
Yeah, sure, and of course this year at the Red Bull Ring we also have the brand new chicane, so there's something new for everyone to learn there. It's an interesting looking chicane.
Therefore, understandable reasons, of course, after the nonsense that happened.
Sarko Morbidelli.
Was that last year or the year before?
Year before.
No, that was
last year.
2020.
Yeah, 21.
Was it?
Yeah, 2021.
2020.
It was sometime in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
I don't know.
2020. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Zarco was on the Avintia. Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of the chicane that was put in at Catalonia, which I think was the first full circuit back in Formula One after Ayrton Senna's death. Or I think it was Spa, I'm not sure. And they decided, just as like a knee-jerk reaction, this could never happen again, and rightly so. But they stuck tons of chicanes in places where you'd think, okay, suppose, but whatever. You can't argue against safety, can you? But anyway, so that should be interesting how that plays out, that chicane thing. Maybe it might even add to the spectacle. Moving on.
Yeah, Ducati spoke about that, and they're not too confident with the chicane being there now, with their horsepower not being the advantage on that straight. But anyway, that's for a future debate.
Exactly, yeah, and well, the alternative is a little bit scary to not have that chicane, because we know what might happen if it wasn't. But anyway, yeah, for future. Back to GP, I think, Luke, and let's talk about Ducatis then. What was going on there?
Yeah, it was a rather up and down weekend for Ducati across the field. Obviously, they had Pecco and Bezzecchi, who did really well. They were incredible on the day, but then you have Miller in 6th, Martin 7th, Bastianini 11th, Zarco 13th, Digi 14th, and Marini out of the points. He did have wing damage, Marini, so that did hold him back. But it's the thing of 2 Ducati did well. One was a factory and one was last year's, whereas the others all had issues, which Martin is also riding with an infection. So really, Marini and Martin had factors that held them back, but the others, including Zarco, it was a rather poor weekend.
Okay, and your thoughts, Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite an up and down weekend, as Luke said, and especially on the Friday in the wet, Ducati looked quite strong, especially with Zarco. They were just putting in the laps in the pouring conditions. It's aquaplay at some point, but Zarco looked so confident in them conditions, and it came to qualifying and race day, and there was nothing really to show for it. And it was all kind of left to Marco Bezzecchi and Francesco Bagnaia to join up the dots. And Jack Miller looked pretty decent as well. I mean, Jack Miller, I do think, could have got a podium if he never messed up on the second last lap, I believe it was, at the chicane. He was en route for a podium, I would say. But yeah, it's not what we're used to seeing from Ducati. With usually one bike's up there, it's usually multiple. Majority of Ducatis actually, and Gresini didn't have another good weekend either. So yeah, it's not what Ducati obviously wants. The fact they have so much bikes on the grid, it doesn't. Well, they're not looking that great for championship contention. So yeah, it's an interesting weekend, and it's definitely the star of the show is probably Marco Bezzecchi on that VR46 Ducati, which put in a superb ride for second place.
Yeah, I think Bezzecchi really proved himself, and it was rightly asked after the race by, I think it was Michael Laverty, to Davide Tardozzi about, is Bezzecchi now in for a promotion to the likes of Pramac, or potentially even the factory if you want to go wild on it. But I think he confirmed there and then that Bezzecchi will be staying with VR46 for next season. So hopefully, Bezzecchi will get a factory spec Ducati next season, like Marini, because I think he deserves one after this rookie season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, certainly in the past couple of rounds, he's been looking great, and he's finally starting to get the results. And look at Marini finishing 17th this race, and he's on a better spec Ducati. It's kind of mind-boggling, to be honest. Although Luca Marini is known to be quite a consistent rider, Marco Bezzecchi now is showing his form, and it's shown that he finally deserves a ride. And Davide Tardozzi kind of shot down the idea as soon as Michael Laverty mentioned that. He kind of wanted just to make it clear that it's a 2-horse race basically for his Ducati factory seat.
Yeah, I mean, Bezzecchi, I'm just looking at his season so far. That's his second top 5 finish this season, which is more than Marini has in the top 5. And Bezzecchi is above him in the championship now. And obviously, Bezzecchi's a rookie. He will have rookie races as such, where he makes a mistake, which more experienced riders wouldn't. But he really is showing his talent, and potentially when you get him on a factory spec Ducati, more to come from Bez.
Okay, cool. What do you think? Let us know. Get in touch and have your say. Use the hashtag Motorsport Radio or Superbike Show, and or just send us a comment in the comments box below, wherever you're listening or watching this show. It is the Superbike Show. It is Motorsport Radio. My name is Lester. Luke Newman is here, and also Lewis Ray, no relation to Jonathan, is also here. Do you get sick of being asked that?
Not. No, I don't really get asked it too much because it's a slightly different spelling. I'm R-A-E and Jonathan's R-E-A. So on paper, it's slightly different.
Right. I never thought about that. Oh, there you go. Ray. No, it's messing with my head. Stop it. Okay, quick question. I've just been looking at some ad hoc stats on the old MotoGP website, just to back up a potential theory that I've got. It doesn't seem to be theorying, but anyway, Suzuki, bit of a mediocre sort of race at the last round. I'm just going back through the other races previously to find out roughly where. I think the last good race they had was Catalonia, I think. A 4th place or top 5 there. But basically, my theory is that after they announced that they were leaving MotoGP at the end, and I think it is still their official plan to officially pull out. They've not been persuaded to stay and spend lots of money yet. But that seemed to have, according to the quick scroll through of results that I've seen since, possibly a knock-on effect for the whole team. And it's maybe, for example, if they hadn't announced it early in the season, do you think they'd be doing better than what they're currently doing, Luke?
I'm actually glad you brought this up, because I've noticed this myself from looking at their
not
results, especially when you look at like France and Mugello, where both riders DNF'd. But I don't think it would have a knock-on effect on the riders, because their mentality would switch to, we need to get good results to secure our place on the grid next year, because as Lewis said, there is a real backlog of riders now that deserve seats and will get seats, or potentially won't get seats now. So Mir and Rins will still be pushing themselves to the hardest, but I think the team are also still trying hard, because Gintoli mentioned on BT Sport on the weekend that he is testing, I believe, this week in Jerez with Suzuki. So they're obviously still bringing new parts, and they brought in a new aero upgrade for both Mir and Rins, I believe, used it this weekend. So the team is still trying their hardest. I think they'd like to stay, but obviously financial reasons they can't. But that is still the official word that they are leaving MotoGP.
Yeah, they've probably already committed to a certain amount of spend in their budget for this year. So whatever they were planning on doing in terms of upgrades and stuff, they will carry on doing that, because you don't want to potentially sell your team if it's at the back, and they seem to be moving further and further towards it. Last good couple of races that they had, I think they had a couple of podiums in Argentina and COTA, Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah.
And then nothing since yet.
Yeah, no podium since.
Lewis, my theory that they probably shouldn't have announced that they were pulling out when they did might have affected the team. Is that, I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, I would probably agree with that theory, to be honest, just for the fact that ever since they had announced it, I would say morale on the team's been down, and the riders themselves, although I definitely think that they're not scared necessarily, I think they're definitely switched to that mentality, as Luke mentioned, the fact that they want to get that ride, it's almost like survival mode. But I think it's causing them just to push a bit too far. And now we're seeing some mistakes from Alex Rins and especially Joe Amir that we wouldn't normally see. A bit of desperation starting to creep in as they start, for example, them crashes that we've seen in the French Grand Prix and etc. It's potentially making them a bit desperate and maybe making them push a bit harder next round, which is causing more mistakes. And going back to what we said with the upgrades that they're bringing, Sylvain Gantoli also said on BT Sport the fact that these upgrades in the aero packages were in development all the way before they announced that they're leaving MotoGP, and that's them finally just getting made and ready to get put on the bike. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially after the summer break, after I would say almost all their parts are done that they had in the pipeline before the announcement. It's going to be interesting to see how the team is really going to keep developing, if it's going to keep developing that motorcycle, because as Lester said, they do want to hopefully sell the team at the end of the year, and the further forward is going to be easier to sell.
Yeah, as well, because Silverstone will be a proper area where we can tell, since Rins especially has gone really well around Silverstone the last couple of years. Even if you look to the past when Maverick was with them, it was a track where Suzuki went well. So I'd say if at least one of them isn't on the podium in Silverstone, it would be a poor showing from Suzuki.
Well,
I would agree.
The only reason it sort of slips into my thinking is because many years ago in football, when I used to support football, or watch football, like football, Sir Alex Ferguson announced, I think at the start of one particular season, the 2001 season or something like that, 100 years ago, that he was going to retire at the end of this year. And basically what happened was the entire team didn't bother trying, or suddenly for like the champions or like very capable team of people capable of winning championships suddenly ended up not seemingly giving a crap. And that whole mentality, so it's in the back of your mind, everyone still pushing forward and doing a good job, but just in the back of your mind, it's all sort of coming to an end soon. So, why bother? Why bother giving that extra 10%? Why bother staying a bit later in the evening to do a bit more training or that sort of thing? And maybe that creeps into potential. I'm not suggesting it definitely does, and I hope it isn't the case. But and maybe I'll be proven wrong at Silverstone. Like you said, they'll come back fighting, maybe with a win or something like that. But it's probably not the right thing to do to announce that you're pulling out of something, because it can have a very demoralising effect, whether you think it or not. So, Suzuki there.
But also on the upside of them announcing things early is the fact that it gives the mechanics some time to try find some work and try to go somewhere next year, because obviously there's a lot of people out of job now. So hopefully it gives them just a bit more time to try speak to teams around the paddock and see if there's any jobs for them.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it's a bit of a bad situation if you know that you can't sustain a team. Maybe, what do you do? Do you announce it last minute and pull out like a bit of a dick? Be like, see ya, we're off. And then everyone's, in shock out of a job last minute. Or do you it's always an awkward thing to announce, isn't it? And I don't know if there is a bit of a right way to do it. I don't know what it is. But that's a theory anyway that I've got. So it might not be true, and they might come back and do some good things at Silverstone. Only Luke knows, because he's good at making predictions. It's a joke. Anyway, Honda. We've not talked about them yet, have we? Are they worth talking about?
No, we haven't.
No.
Okay. Yeah, Honda. Then
they did better than Germany.
Okay. Yeah.
They actually scored points this week. Nakagami was 12th, Alex Marquez 15th, Bradl 18th outside the points, but actually finished the whole race again, so it was collecting data for once. But yeah, they're in a real crisis is probably the only word you can use to say how bad they've been doing. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it was great finally seeing some points on the board and seeing Nakagami get some respectable results. I mean, an 8th place, I believe it was a pretty good result for him, to be honest. He didn't crash out, and there was not really too much desperation, it seemed, this week. It looks like they just did the race and got some points on the board, which I think probably would have been the objective this weekend after such a terrible showing, and Bradl's just doing what he is meant to be doing, of course, and that is collected data, which he did get quite a lot of stick about whenever he did crash as his return as the test rider, and just crashed at the first couple of laps. And obviously in Germany he got burnt and injured from the Honda. It was quite clear about how angry he was about that bike, so it's good to see him finally get some points on the board, and well, hopefully it's give them some sort of data and some sort of direction for next year. But honestly, right now, I still don't see any light at the end of this tunnel for Honda.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. It makes you think almost that nobody has announced they're joining Honda yet because they don't really want to, in a way. Obviously, Repsol Honda is, I've said this probably before on here, it's this prestigious team. Repsol Honda have won in the 500cc class. They won with Doohan, Rossi, Marquez, Stoner, Hayden, and now it's the thing of they should be happy to score points, which is not where Honda want to be. Obviously, Paul Espargaro didn't take part. He's still feeling the effects from his crashes in Germany. But it's just, I can't remember in my lifetime, especially a time when Honda have been so poor.
Yeah, neither can I. I mean, it's so disappointing to see. And Rins, I believe, in the week did kind of suggest that the LCR Honda deal is almost done, and basically everyone can expect where he's going to end up next season. So it looks like we're going to see Rins on the LCR Honda next year, which is going to be it's going to be an interesting sight, I would say.
Just remaining with the Repsol Honda for the time being. A couple of days ago, there was an open letter issued by, we're told, Marc Marquez, penned by Marc Marquez. When journalists write, they always say penned, don't they? Instead of wrote or written. Penned, whatever. Anyway, Marc Marquez apparently still reminding us that he's here and still feeling motivated, guys. But to me, I mean, a lot of people reading I won't read it all out what he said, but a lot of people reading what he wrote, and you can check it out for yourself on MotoGP.com, amongst other places. To me, it read like he's in two minds whether to call it quits, knowing that it's going to happen sooner rather than later. And he's only a little bit hopeful that he can possibly gain or regain his old form again, which seems increasingly unlikely. And he's just holding out a little bit of hope now. That's how I took away my maybe I was reading a bit too much in between the lines. But Luke, you obviously read what he wrote, Mark. What did you think?
I don't think he's ready to call it a day on his MotoGP career. You read it and he says he realised that the way he had been riding, he would have had to retire sooner rather than later, so he had to have this operation when he had it to sort his arm out. But he's been taking inspiration from tennis player Rafael Nadal, who has come back from what should have been a career-ending injury to play again, and also he's working closely with Mick Doohan, who I think it was just before potentially he started winning all his titles. He had an injury as well, which again should have ended his career early on, which he came back from as well. And it's been known in the past that Doohan and Mark as a friend. So I think Mark's very motivated to get back on the Honda and get back to the way he has been.
It's all well and good being motivated, and that's something that you'd expect to hear in a press release like that. But he did say, quote, "My current feeling is one of hope. Because of the way I was riding and competing, I didn't see myself as being on the bike for much longer, he says. Maybe another year or two. After the intervention in Rochester, the hope is that I can continue competing without pain and have fun on the bike.
Key word was.
Yeah, I mean,
is what I take from that.
I mean, if I was just taking that one thing, that bit of the press release, which I did, and not take it out of context, but if I was focusing on that particular one sentence, Lewis stood out to me. And it seemed to me like he realises now that the best days are definitely behind him. And if he can hopefully get back to being slightly competitive or even just getting back on a bike in MotoGP, then that's a win-win for him. But I think he knows now, doesn't he? I think we all do.
Well, I think that we'll never see Mark as the way we see them in them 2018, 2019 seasons where he was just absolutely dominant. I think those days are behind him. I think he knows that himself, to be honest. But I think right now he's just relying on hope, and I believe his hope probably will be just a fight for podiums or a race win most weekends. I think he'll be pretty happy to be just in contention for it again, rather than lingering in 6th, 7th, 8th place. And it sounds like if he does keep lingering in that he will lean towards retirement in a year or two. That's the way I read it. If he stays in that lower half of the top 10, he wants to call it quits, because he is a winner at the end of the day. And if he's not able to at least fight for podiums weekend out, I don't think he really is enjoying it.
And also, how long do Honda wait? Really, I mean, they understandably, they're probably a bit torn on their loyalty for Mark and his history and everything he's done for the team, but they can't hang around forever, though, can he?
I do also want to add that, as we can see from the other riders on this grid, the Honda is an absolute awful bike. And Marquez, when he was there, he was the top Honda pretty much every race weekend, and he was riding nowhere near 100% of his arm. I think it was, I can't remember which bone it was in his arm, but it was about 30 degrees out of line from where it should have been. So he would have been riding in a very different way to he had been, and in some discomfort. So I think if Honda can sort their bike out, and if Mark is going to come back to probably not at the level he had been in 2019, as Lewis said, but if he can come back at a decent level, he will be able to fight for podiums and wins.
Yeah, it is a shame to say, and for the avoidance of any doubt, I love Mark and all he's done and achieved, and just his mindset, the way he goes about things. He is still very much an inspiration to many people, and he is still probably, you could argue, definitely one of the greatest ever.
Very talented,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and he put up on Instagram as well, Marc Marquez, a picture with him with no shirt on. You could really see the extent of that scar. It's quite a mighty scar that he's got in his arm right now. It's pretty inspirational to see someone who has that big of an injury, has that big of marks on their body from, getting surgery to try and ride the motorcycle again. It's really showing just how determined and passionate he is. But going back to your point quickly, Lester, and how long will Honda wait? The thing is, right now, they don't really have anyone else that can do a better job than Mark. I mean, right now they're struggling to fill a second rider, and who's really there to replace Mark, and who's there to give as good of a feedback as Marc Marquez. So right now, I would probably say that Honda's just got to wait as long as they can until they can find at least someone else to be able to fill somewhat the boots in for Marc Marquez for developing the motorcycle.
It might be Mark's saving grace, really, that bike is perceived to be a bit terrible. That might take away some of the attention, because if they were, if the bike was in a position to be winning every round, the pressure will be on, obviously, and I don't think they'd be well, maybe, I don't know. I don't know the team, obviously, but maybe that team might be a bit more ruthless, potentially. And there will come an awkward conversation at some point, won't they? Obviously.
I think personally the ruthlessness will come to the Repsol Honda team from the head bosses in Japan. Obviously, I can't remember his name, but the head boss of HRC was at Assen this weekend, and not saying that anything is confirmed, but he has been ruthless in the past. So who's to say that Alberto Puig, the team boss at Repsol Honda, will potentially not be in that position come 2023, and maybe someone such as Livio Supo, who's leaving, who will be losing his role at Suzuki, might step back into Repsol Honda. That's just something that may happen since the head bosses were around, and they haven't been for the rest of the season.
Might be a good point, that actually, Lewis. That it could be maybe time for just a whole clearing out of a whole fresh start, a new philosophy there.
Yeah, I have to agree with that, to be honest. Although Alberto that has done a great job, majority of his time has been with Marc Marquez's dominant fashion. And I did hear on BT Sport at the weekend, actually, that it was seen that Livio Super was talking to some people from Honda. I can't remember his name, just like look, but one of the head bosses at Honda were seen talking in the paddock, although it might just be a friendly conversation and just maybe catch up, because obviously Livio was employed by Honda in the past and has won championships with them. So it's definitely a possibility, and definitely something that really needs to be looked at for the future, because Livio Supo is a ruthless person himself, and is maybe just what Honda need, just to kick up the backside, really just to get that push and start getting the performance in the bike and really just try and get results back again.
Yeah, I'm going to completely agree with you there. Supo may be not that Alberto Puig isn't ruthless enough, because he is to the media, especially from stuff you see, but definitely something that Honda will most likely be considering the way that the team will go for staffing and riders potentially in the future, but especially with how bad this bike has become this season, when it was meant to be the saving grace for them.
Interesting. Let us know what you think. Get in touch, have your say, leave a comment in comments box below. By gum. Will Mark sling his hook? Will he go and, I don't know, do something else? End up in BSB? Why not? Who knows? Probably not. You never know. Weirder things have happened. It'd be very welcome. Racing around Knockhill. It'd be a bit of a shock to his system, but you never know. Anyway, talking about another team who's having a bit of a nightmare at the moment, certainly at the weekend, Yamaha.
Yeah, they're not having a nightmare season for one rider, which is of course Fabio, who is leading the championship, but in terms of every other rider they have, which is three others, Morbidelli, who, as we have seen in the past, is incredibly talented, Darren Binder, who has made the jump obviously from Moto3 into MotoGP, and Dovizioso, who is now past his prime and just declining every week. It seems like he is mentally retired. But
wow,
yeah, they had an awful weekend. Dovizioso 16th, not what you'd expect from Dovi, especially where he had performed on the Yamaha before in the past and the Ducati. Darren Binder crashed out, rookie mistake. He destroyed that M1, and Morbidelli as well crashed out. He is just not having a good season at all since his comeback.
Yeah, I mean, Morbidelli this season, he's disappointed me, really, to say the least. I thought at least this year, especially towards the middle point in the season, we're going to see the normal Franco Morbidelli back again, but he's just been absolutely nowhere. And we've seen in the past, Franco can equal Quartararo and sometimes even do better than Quartararo, especially in that first year in the Petronas bike. And yeah, it's just disappointing to see, not only from Franco but from the whole Yamaha team, because it's not often that we say that Dovizioso is the top Yamaha for the weekend, finishing 16th place, which is just a real shocker, to be honest. And obviously we did have Fabio crashing out and then coming back to the pits and getting told to go back out on track again, only for, well, I believe the traction control to fail and flick him up in the air, which, I was definitely looked upon by many people around the paddock. The fact that he said that something was wrong with the bike and they wanted to retire it to Yamaha, and they just told him to go back out there even though the bike crew wasn't right.
Yeah, I want to touch on what you just said there. I think a sensor was probably knocked off the bike in a crash, especially when he went into the gravel, but it was a nasty crash that Quartararo had, and I can't remember which commentator it was, might have been Lavati after, called it right that he's lucky to come away from that injury free, because that bike flicked him a good couple times and he held on for a long time, and that could have been a collarbone potentially broken from how nasty that crash was. But obviously going back to Morbidelli, from what you said of how you've been disappointed, I have been as well, and I think he said the other day that unlike the past, you actually have to push and be aggressive on this Yamaha to get results, which just isn't how he rides a bike. So Morbidelli really isn't gelling to it, and it seems like Quartararo's the only one who can, and they could have injured him in that race by sending him back out, and they're lucky that they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, there was a photo that I seen online, and it was practically, his helmet was basically touching the ground as he was facing upside down after he got flipped off that motorcycle. It was such a bad crash. I mean, just the way he got flicked off, it was so strange, and he was super lucky to come out injury-free, and it looks like a season, actually. It's Quartararo, who's the only rider that could probably ride this Yamaha. And then second, I would probably say Darren Binder, to be honest, is the only one showing some glimmers of hope, especially whenever it's raining, and he's got some pretty good results on that Yamaha. So Darren Binder, he's well met expectations this year, to be honest. He's done a great step. And, well, talking about steps, it's Yamaha that for many years now, it is that top speed that we keep going back to and keep talking about. And they're practically at this point now with the motorcycle where they can't develop it anymore. Well, the likes of KTM still has room to develop that motorcycle to make it better, while Yamaha's kind of at a dead end. And that everyone in the team's got scratched in their heads, which really, for Quartararo's sake, it's going to make us question the next couple of years how much more difficult this is going to come from, really, with the likes of Ducati and KTM and Aprilia, really, just improving as the years go on, while Yamaha's almost at a standstill.
But then if Yamaha then run the risk, obviously, if they try and redevelop the M1, that they'll do what Honda have done and make a bike that even their star riders like Marquez would struggle to ride, which would be Quartararo in that case.
Yeah, it's almost a situation where you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, to be honest. I mean, it's going to be a long winter for them. They're going to have to test quite a lot of things, I would say, pre-season to make, well, not only the bike perform better, but Quartararo happy, because that is their star man, that is their Marquez of Yamaha, and if they just need to keep him happy. And I would personally say the reason why it took so long for contract negotiations to happen would be Quartararo just wanting a bit more from that package and from Yamaha.
Okay, well, moving on, because we've got other things to talk about. Championship standings at the moment after the weekend. Quartararo still top on 172 points, but Alish is fast closing in-ish on 151. Zarco in third place at the moment, 114 points, a bit way back. And even further back is Bagnaia on 106 points, just ahead of Bastianini. And talking about Pecco, is after his win at Assen, and I think that makes it his third win this year. I was just looking at the stats. His third win of the year, and only his third podium. He's had 4 pole positions, and he's currently in fourth in the championship. If he can be a bit more consistent, is he, Luke, potentially a real championship contender, or maybe not?
The thing with Pecco going to the next potentially 4 rounds, which are the last 4 in Europe, Silverstone I could see the Ducati going well around Dakin Turn. They have obviously the straight line speed, which will help them, and obviously Quartararo's got the long lap penalty, which may hold him back. Austria, Ducati stomping ground really. They love it there. So again, I could see Pecco going well there. Misano, Pecco's gone well there in the past. I wouldn't put it past him winning there. And Aragon as well, somewhere where he last year held back Marquez and took a rather dominant lead, dominant win. So if he could, it's a big ask, but I think to stay in this, he's going to have to win the next 4 races and then into the flyaways, be competitive there as well, and hope that Quartararo makes some more mistakes.
Lewis, is Pecco back in the championship fight?
I would say it's probably too early to say he's back in the championship fight just yet. I mean, I would completely agree with Luke. We're just going to have to wait and see whenever we arrive to the flyaways and go to rounds that we haven't been to in quite a while, to be honest. And some of the riders, haven't raced at, and it's almost an equal play field, to be honest, because the bikes have changed so much in the past couple of seasons that after this European leg of the season, whenever we go to places like Thailand and Australia, it's really going to be a question of who's going to win there. So it's really an open playing field when we get to there. But yeah, I mean, Pecco, he's not had a good season so far. It's definitely looking up for him, but he's just going to need to keep being consistent and can't make them stupid mistakes from crashing out like he has done so far this season. He just needs to get the points in the bag, and it's at that point in the season where you might need to take a second place. But for Pecco's case right now, he just needs to go out and win it. There's nothing more he can do, otherwise his championship is over. But right now, it is all, I would say, just all eyes on Fabio and Delicious Spargo over the next couple of rounds and see if Aprilia can do the unthinkable, and that is fight for the championship going into the final couple of rounds.
Okay.
Yeah, I said it earlier on in the season, Aprilia can, so we'll see.
Definitely one to potentially keep an eye on. It could mark a turning point, maybe, in his championship, picking up that third win at the weekend. Who knows? Do you? What might happen? Let us know. Get in touch and have your say. Motorsport Radio, the Superbike show, here every week. I'm going to say every week. Sometimes, depending on whether we're busy or not. But yeah, interesting one. And one final thing, just before we move on, unless there's other stuff to talk about. This always confuses the hell out of me. And maybe it's just me being really dim. But on the stats page on MotoGP website, from the race, if you look down, if you go to the results page and then scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see the records. And relating to that particular event. So at the weekend, let me just double check I am actually on the right thing, because that would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? If I go on a big rant. Yes, Assen. So the all-time lap record, according to MotoGP.com, was set in 2021, 132.869 by Quartararo. That's 132.8 all-time lap record. However, I've said this before, I've pointed this out, and still I can't understand it. So if anyone knows why maybe I'm being a bit thick, the best race lap was a 131.5, and that's faster than the all-time lap record, isn't it?
Who set that? Does it say on there who set that?
Yeah, Bagnaia.
Sorry, I'm not on that page.
This year.
I think that was from this year, so I don't know if that's just a case of what it was before this race and what it's turned into now, sort of thing.
And it also states the fastest race lap. The best race lap is a 131.5 Bagnaia. But the fastest race lap, in terms of speed, got it, right, understand now. Right, the fastest
I'm
race
just sort
lap.
of thinking maybe that was just what it was before this year's, and Pecco's just bested it by a long way, because Pecco did set a new best race lap during the race, so I don't know if it's just a thing of that's what it was coming into this weekend, this is what it is sort of now from that event.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, I don't know why a previous old lap record would be still relevant and still on the website if it's been beaten already. It just confuses me, and I don't like being confused. That's all. But am I right though in that is a little bit confusing though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not very clear.
Yeah, I get both points. Yeah,
especially the fastest race lap and the best race lap's a bit confusing, to be honest.
Maybe the fastest speed or something, or overall, yeah, it's just maybe it's the
fastest race lap is slower than the best race lap as well. So
I'm gonna say maybe there's a bit of translation things going on which didn't translate very well. Anyway, so yeah, moving on from MotoGP and Moto2. An interesting race, a good race, Luke, for once.
Yeah, I mean the championship's in a good position as well at the moment, because after this round, I believe there is just 2 points, 1 point separating the top three. Sorry, yeah. There's the top three of Vietti, Fernandez, and Agura, and the race featured them heavily, with Fernandez being the winner once again, like I said earlier, Agura in second place, and Vietti in fourth. But I mean, the big one that I think we all want to talk about is Jake Dixon on the podium again in third place.
Yay! That was definitely good. Tell us more.
Jake, he's just said he had a great weekend, put it on pole. Obviously, there was definite doubts going into the race of would Jake be able to convert a pole into a good result, since in Thailand, I believe it was, he put it on pole and then crashed out rather early on. But Jake put in a very impressive ride in Assen, and backed it up and showed his talent.
Yeah, what was your take on things, Lewis?
It was a great ride from Jake. It was quite a mature ride from Jake as well. Just he got the points in the bag. He didn't throw it down the road either. And on the flip side of things, we had Sam Lowes, who I believe went into a false neutral in the first lap, actually, the first corner, which sent him just completely wide, and then he crashed out of the race, but I believe just pushing too hard. So it was a terrible weekend for Sam Lowes. But yeah, great ride by Jake Dixon, and Ayogura getting some valid championship points ahead of Vietti. So championship's so close right now in Moto2. And once again, it was another great race. We've been seeing some great races this year in Moto2. We've seen it at Catalonia as well. And it's great to see the class so healthy. There's so much talent in it. I mean, Bobin Snyder as well, at his home race, came home in 5th place. As a highly respectable ride. And Philip Salak, actually, I believe, also got his first top 10 of the season. So yeah, it's great. And it's Assen, as I said at the start of the show, is doing what it does best in producing great racing in all 3 classes across the weekend.
And even Barry Baltus got a point, didn't he? So
yeah, he did.
Not bad.
Well done.
Barry Baltus from Belgium.
Yeah.
Sorry, but yeah, no. Well done, Jake Dixon. And what was your take on his? I think you've just told me, but I mean, compared to the previous race, was it the previous race where he apparently was like nowhere, or was that the previous race?
Previous race,
Germany. Yeah. Previous race, he was nowhere. Yeah.
A good comeback for him.
Yeah. It's in the past we've seen with Jake, when you look back to Portugal, crashed out there. Obviously, weather was a big part of that. Jerez crashed out again, and then Le Mans was 21st. So it shows that Jake is a real confidence rider and needs a good result to keep that going. And if he does have a bad result, form may dip. But Jake showed that it was a very, very solid race from Jake. Obviously, I believe he would have been to Assen in BSB as well. So past experience around the track probably helped out.
Exactly. Yeah. Your thoughts, Lewis, if you have any?
Yeah, it's just a mature ride for him, to be honest. As I said, he just got the points, and he didn't make any stupid moves, to be honest. He just kind of rode his own race and seen what happened, and getting that pole position, he was absolutely buzzing. And with, obviously, as we'll get into later, Sasaki winning the Moto3 race, there was some extra pressure on him just winning the Moto2 race, as he also got pole position. But it wasn't quite a win. It wasn't quite the win that we were hoping for, personally. But it's still great to see him on the podium, and I think this will definitely give him the confidence to properly see him at the British Grand Prix, because we haven't actually seen him on a competitive bike at the British Grand Prix in Moto2, because obviously last year was on the Petronas MotoGP bike. So can we see a Jake Dixon first win at Silverstone? Well, we're going to have to wait a whole 5 weeks to find out.
Ooh. I suspect you might have just jinxed him.
No, I didn't say it. So
well, yeah,
Lewis's predictions have been decent, so I won't say anything about that.
The old chestnut of we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to employ that usage there, but yeah, I suppose we've got to talk about it, or do we? Maybe I think we should. Sam Lowes.
It was like Lewis said, believed false neutral going into turn one on the first lap, not what he needed. Also didn't help that, can't remember who it was, but someone was a bit close to him into turn one, and Sam ran it on, and then he was dead last, and the old Sam Lowes came out, and he pushed incredibly hard, and down he went.
Not much else to say though, Lewis, really.
No, there's not too much more to say. It's just, yeah, it was a crash that he didn't need at all. I mean, we all thought, especially after the result in Germany, he has a confidence ride as well, Sam, so I thought maybe we might say good result, but it just wasn't. Well, yeah, there wasn't really anything to show. I believe it was Alonso Lopez that he made slight contact with that false neutral at turn one. So, yeah, it wasn't a great race. It wasn't a good race at all, but what could have been for Sam Lowes? But we've said many times this season what could have been, and hopefully he can bounce back at his home round and for the rest of the season, because it's just been dreadful so far for him.
I feel a cheeky prediction coming on. I don't know. I've got an idea as to what the podium might be. Have a guess.
Share.
2 Brits on the podium. Moto2. Oh, Lester, you idiot. You shut up. Now, don't you say anything, Luke, because you'll spoil it. You can just nod and agree quietly. But there you go. I mean, look. It might. I mean, there's every reason it might happen. There's no reason why it won't.
He just needs to finish and just not push a bit too hard, especially on that front end, and stupid mistakes.
I never said which 2 Brits. Ooh.
Yeah.
But I think there might be 2 Brits on the podium in Moto2 at the British Grand Prix.
I also think what I heard on the weekend is Sam Lowes does have a contract with the team that he's with for next season. So that debate of last season, will Sam go to Worlds next year, is now not valid, because as we found out, he is going to be staying with the Mark VDS team for next season. So that is good to hear, since he has had such a bad year.
Well, that'll be some comfort to him. Just checking out the championship, and he's in 13th at the moment. Is young Sam on 51 points, and versus Jake Dixon, who's in 8th place on 76 points. Jake, couple more good results, couple more podiums, and he's right back in there in the championship hunt. I mean, there's 1 point separating Vietti, Fernandez, and Aguirre, 1, 2, and 3, and that's not going to, stay the same way. So yeah, Jake Dixon, the most likely of the 2 Brits at the moment to continue his fight in the championship. But will he, Luke?
I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to jinx him.
Okay. We'll take that as a yes, though. But will he get right back in there in the thick end of the championship, Lewis?
Yeah, I would say so, hopefully, anyway. I mean, especially with the British round coming up and Aragon, some tracks that he usually does pretty well at. I think now is his chance to try and get a good last half of the season, because I don't actually know if he's got a contract for next year yet. I don't believe he does, so he really just needs to get that results, because there is 2 Gas Moto3 riders looking for a seat in the Moto2 Championship.
I think they also said this weekend that Gas do want to keep Jake, but then, like Lewis has said, there is 2 very young and hungry Spaniards who are after those 2 rides for next season. So someone's going to be left disappointed in the Aspar Gas garages.
Well, as long as it's not the Brits, then that's fine, isn't it? So yeah. What else to say about Moto 3? Moto 2. You will get onto Moto 3 next. Luke, you had a couple of things to mention, hopefully.
I'd like to. It's just mainly people who did well, who sort of almost you'd hope would. Boban Schneider is definitely, like Lewis mentioned, home hero in Assen. Did very well, I thought. Put in a solid showing. Who else is there? Aldeguer, I thought, was a little bit off his usual self in 11th place. Firmin is obviously someone that we've I think everyone's really hyped up in the past, and he had a 5th place, in Germany, and then back down to 11th in Assen. So just maybe a lack of experience at the track, maybe for Firmin, but yeah, it was a bit of an odd result.
Yeah, it was, and 2 folk who we haven't mentioned just yet is Manuel Gonzalez on the VR46 Camp Yamaha supported team, finished in 9th place, and one person I did want to see get his first Moto2 win this round that looked like it could have been on the cards was Marcel Schrotter, who sadly crashed out of the lead of the race and spoiled his chances. Marcel, he's been in Moto2 for many years now, and it looked like it was finally going to come, but just too much front braking, down he went.
I actually, when I saw him crash out, I did think you'd be gutted about that, because I know you mentioned last week that you do like seeing him near the front, and I was like, I actually wanted him to do well as well, because he was on for it. He pulled out a decent margin as well on the other riders, and then about mid-section of the lap, he just lost the front, and down he went on lap 11.
In terms of standout performances, or just touching on other disappointing performances, Luke, who did good and bad, or better or worse than you thought in Moto2?
Let me have a quick little look for the results. Zonta van den Gorberg is home race as well. I believe he's only about 16 or around that age, if Wikipedia wants to load. Yeah, 16 years old, and he finished 18th, obviously outside the points, but his rookie year in Moto2, and I was very impressed with how Zonta got on at his home round, with all the pressure that was on him, because I believe he was the cover star as well of the event.
Yeah, he wasn't even. Was he? Okay. I mean, he wasn't even the highest placed Dutch rider.
I've mentioned Ben Schneider and how he did well.
Okay. Yeah, and anyone particularly disappoint you in Moto2? Other than Sam Lowes, obviously. But we've talked about him. No? Okay.
My Wi-Fi went. I don't know what was said.
Fair enough. Well, we'll move on and ask Lewis anyway. Any standout performances for you, or very disappointing, other than who we've talked about so far?
Disappointing, no one that we've not mentioned so far, but as we've already said, Alonso Lopez, he impressed me once again. Obviously, he was the fill-in for Fanati in that Bosco Scuro bike, so it's great to see him finally, well, not even finally getting results, because so far he's got an 8th and 8th, a 7th and a 6th, So it's his best result of the season so far, and he's looking consistent in that top 10 straight away. So it's great to see, and it's potentially another talent to look out for the future.
All right. Well, yeah, bit of a break now till the next race. And what was I going to mention? Oh, yeah. I've just got a free BT Sport subscription. This is nothing to do with like anything, but it's apart from me watching MotoGP for free. It's because, and you can probably take advantage of this. Now, I didn't know this before. This is top consumer advice, peeps. So don't let it be said that I don't ever give you free advice, which helps save you money. If you are an EE customer or a customer of EE and you have a data only SIM, as I do, because that's how I do the whole live streaming, just with an EE SIM in a router. I know you didn't know that, but it's true. I used to pay like £60 a month because just like I had a subscription which lapsed. It was out of contract for like 3 years or something. I just kept on paying it, blah, blah, blah. And the whole price kept going up and it was like £66 a month for unlimited. If you're in a similar position, well, go onto the EE website right now, because you can probably find that you can get the same package for less than half the price. And I'm not being paid to tell you this. It's just, it really pissed me off when I found this out, because I'd be like, why was I paying like £60 a month? And also with a package, a brand new package that you can go onto, it includes, if you activate it or look for it, BT Sport subscription for free as part of the thing, and also Netflix I got for like, anyway, it cost me now £33 a month, half of what I was paying, and I get free BT Sport only on my phone though. That's the only ball ache. So I've got to watch it just on my phone, on my tablet, so can't cast it. But still, free BT Sport, and yeah, whereas previously I was looking in very legal places, and ITV4, of course, for the MotoGPs. So top consumer advice there for you. If you're being ripped off by EE, then don't be. Go and shop around, kids, and pick yourself up a BT Sport subscription for free. There you go. Moving on. Moto3. Luke, what's going on in Moto3?
Ayumi Sasaki is the main talking point in Moto3. Finally taking his first ever Moto3 victory. It's been on the cards this season multiple times. Qatar and Le Mans, I believe, were the two chances where Ayumi really had. Obviously, Qatar, he ruined his own chances. He was miles ahead of everyone, pushed just a little bit too hard, and ended up with a bike problem. And then in Le Mans, he finished second. It was so close, but he just left the door open coming into the final couple of corners, and ended up losing out on a race win. But finally, in Assen, he's done the business.
Well, that's good. Doing the business, getting the job done, Lewis.
Yeah, he is, and it was great to see. You could just see the true emotion in Sasaki. He was so happy, and it's great to see a rider react like that whenever they get their first victory and get any victory at all. Honestly, it's just, and it was hard fought for, and well, it was the complete opposite from his teammate John McPhee, which they crashed out on that last lap all by himself. It almost just looked like a crash in sympathy as well over the crash that happened in front of him with Davide Munoz. So yeah, it was great. Well, it was a complete split side of the garage, I would say, for the Husqvarna boys. But Sasaki, it looked like he should have done it in Qatar, but he had that fairing bracket that I believe he saved the high side or something along them lines, and it came loose and left his fair dragging off the ground. So yeah, it should have came earlier, but it's finally here, and now we can finally start thinking about Sasaki to be someone who could potentially win races every single weekend now that he has this confidence that he can just put in his back pocket.
Is that true, Luke?
Yeah, I would completely agree with Lewis. He's had good performances this season. Started the season badly with a double DNF, but then third again, sixth, second. Didn't then take part for 2 races because of injury, and then a 4th and a win. So I believe Sasaki is definitely one, not for this season to watch for the championship. That's going to be one of the Aspar boys. But come next season, if Sasaki is still in Moto3, then he is a championship contender.
Yeah, I would agree. And the Gas boys up there once again, and they're just showing that they're a dominant force, and it's really just the usual contenders apart from that. But it was great to see as well Daniel Holgado being up there now, and Xavi Artigas as well was one that surprised me to be up there this weekend. But yeah, it was a great race. It was a classic Moto3 race, to be honest. And watching on the BT Sport feed, it cuts an ad break as they showed another crash that happened on the last lap with Joe Kelso, which was a monumental high side, which he's in hospital for. Well, yeah, he's in hospital right now but he has 5 weeks to recover and hopefully be back out. But yeah, the main talking point I'd probably say at the end of the race would obviously be Sasaki getting his first win and Davide Munoz being as aggressive as ever, to be honest.
Yeah, we obviously, if you knew about David Munoz, he was this insane talent coming in, but everyone sort of expected him to be aggressive. And he definitely has been. He's delivered on that part of being aggressive and potentially maybe overstepped in this race, because there was a few moments where, not just the one incident on the final lap, but there were a multiple throughout where he did some fair and barging, especially Dennis Foggia, potentially caused his DNF, and may have just gone a little bit too far.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that, to be honest. It was multiple times in the race where he just made these outrageous dive bombs, which we're used to seeing Moto3, but it was like dive bomb Darren Binder-esque, to be honest. It was just moves that you didn't think were going to stick, and on that last lap, it wasn't going to stick. He came from miles back, and it's a corner you don't normally see too many passes done at, and he tried it from so far back, and funnily enough, it resulted in a crash, which then I guess was to cut John McPhee's eyes and just caused them to crash as well. So it was a highly dramatic last lap, and one that I think we'll definitely talk about for a long time, because I don't actually know if he, look, you may know, but I don't know if he actually got a penalty or anything enforced for that move.
See, I haven't seen anything from that penalty, and if anything, I'd say that was worse than Quartararo's incident, because again, he took out a championship, a potential championship contender of Jaume Masia, and it was a different part of the track compared to Fabio's, but it was a part of the track where you could just see from when he almost let the brakes off, and you could see that he was just going to hit Masia, and it was never going to work, and it was just a desperation move that in your rookie season you don't want to be pulling off, because you will make enemies very quickly in the class, and you will get a target on your own back by some of the ever aggressive riders.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you were saying. I mean, I would probably agree as well that it was worse than what happened with Quartararo, and I personally haven't seen anything either from the incident, and it was just one of those moves that straight away you could just see it was never going to work. And he is a rookie at the end of the day, but it was quite an outrageous move. He has been racing for quite a while, and it wasn't the last lap, so maybe there was some leeway with that, but it was certainly a part of the track that you don't expect to see overtakes. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. And another rider who also had the crash was another Brit in Scott Ogden, crashing up quite early in the race. Not what he was wanting, but for the interview with BT Sport before the race started, he didn't sound like his usual self. It sounded like something else was bothering him, and he didn't really have too much a clear head going by just that one interview before the race start.
Yeah, I didn't see Scott's interview before, but I saw a clip of him on the grid just before, obviously after his interview potentially, and he didn't look his normal self. There wasn't much interaction to the camera. Obviously, he started blowing kisses to the camera now. That seems to be his thing whenever that's on him on the grid, but there was none of that. He looked very serious, and potentially something that almost took his mind away from his racing that we don't know about. But whatever it is, I hope Scott will be all right for the British Grand Prix and can perform at his home track when that comes around.
Just been having a look at someone mentioned about penalties from Moto3. and I was busy Googling what the outcome of that was, so I don't know. Apologies if you've already mentioned it, but Fernandez will get a long lap penalty at Silverstone.
Oh, Adrian Fernandez for his collision with Kelso. Okay, so nothing for Munoz.
Not in the article I'm reading, but that's not to say that he hasn't got anything. I'm just reading an article. That wasn't the focus. So I don't know. Maybe someone who was a journalist who was based in the paddock might know better and might want to correct us. Who knows? But that all goes back to the so-called inconsistencies of stewards' penalties and such. I've also been having a quick look at Josh Watley and what he might have been saying, because I didn't catch. Although I did get this BT Sports subscription. It happened on the Sunday afternoon, and I missed half the day, basically. So, yeah, and I was in and out of everything. But he usually posts his thoughts on social media anyway, even on the Vision Track accounts or on his own personal Twitter account. But just trying to find what his thoughts were after the race, in which he finished in 20th position, ahead of a Japanese rider and Ana Carrasco, who again finished last.
Yeah, disappointing from Ana Carrasco again. It's been a highly disappointing season from her, and for Sato as well, finishing behind Josh Watley. So yeah, 20th place isn't where he wants to be, but obviously is lacking in experience compared to Scott Ogden. So I think he needs at least another year yet before we start seeing the best of Josh.
I think that is Josh's joint best result from the season. So obviously a step in the right direction after 2 DNFs, which I don't believe one was his fault, or maybe potentially both. Might not have been his fault from what I can remember. But yeah, again, another rider who will hopefully be looking forward to Silverstone. Yeah,
just found the quote. Now he posted just after the weekend, P29 to P20. He said, first few laps were difficult as some riders were making silly moves that kept us from staying with the group. But a positive race for me, he says. Closed the gap of 4.5 seconds to the rider in front. He also goes on to say on his Twitter account, looking forward to a little break now and then reset onto the home Grand Prix at Silverstone in a few weeks. Can't wait. Big smile. Huge thanks to the team for the great work after such an eventful weekend. And I really hope Josh gets a really good result. He's due a good result, and I think he would welcome it, obviously. Maybe Silverstone's the place. Let's hope. But yeah, Josh Watley doing seemingly good work, and unfortunate, as I know we only just touched on it, but McPhee, would you call it an unforced error that he had? Because he went off technically all on his own. Yes, perhaps he was trying to avoid the crash that was sort of kind of there in front of him. But nobody really forced him off the track, McPhee, and nobody touched him, did they?
I think Lewis said it perfectly. Went in sympathy.
Yeah. I think it's just sympathy crash, and he's seen the crash happen and just maybe pressed the brake a bit too hard after that, because they were in front of him. He also wasn't getting involved in the incident, I wouldn't think. So yeah, just crashed in sympathy, and once again an error that John really can't be making at this stage in his career.
Reminds me of now if anybody doesn't drive, apologies, but people who are driving in roads or in, let's say, motorways, for example, and there's like a line of cars and everyone's doing a certain, they're all traveling in the same speed, and then suddenly some idiot in front puts their brakes on, then everyone slams their brakes on, and then you're suddenly going at 20 miles an hour thinking, what's going on? Why is everyone suddenly just slam their brakes on? And then in some cases, there is actually a crash. It just reminded me a little bit like that, a bit of a silly incident. And like you say, things like that, John shouldn't be doing at this stage in his career.
Yeah, if there's anything really more to say is that finally you're Moto3 and he needs to start getting results now, to be honest. I mean, he missed the first half of the season and now it's at a point where he just needs to straight away be getting in them results and not making almost rookie mistakes, to be honest.
Oh, you're so brutal on our much beloved British rider, John McPhee.
Scottish.
Yeah, as I say, Scottish as well.
Yeah.
Well, he's Scottish at the moment, but when he comes good, he's British all of a sudden. Racist. Yeah, so McPhee, John McPhee, come on, son. Sort it out. And do it at Silverstone. Then all is forgiven. I get paranoid now whenever I start to think negative about John McPhee. And I'm like, maybe Luke will be like, "Oh, it's because you hate John McPhee." I love him really. But anyway, I think we just all really want him to do really well, and we get frustrated when he doesn't do well. Yeah, because he was doing well in the race. You know, he's right up there. But anyway,
Podium was on.
Exactly. And then it was off. Anyway, so yeah, other big standout things, talking points from Moto3 before we move on?
Just a name that I picked up on that isn't normally that high up is Stefano Neppa, who finished in 7th place, who usually averages around 15th place normally for races. So it was a good step up for Stefano.
Yeah, okay. And what about Dennis Onchu as well? 9th place in the race. In the big pack.
It's a bit of a poor result really for Dennis. He's a bit up and down this season. He goes from getting like 5th and 4th places to being about 15th or just scraping into the top 10. So it's not been a consistent year for Dennis, even though he actually hasn't crashed out of a race yet or finished outside of the points this season.
Yeah, much talks about Dennis Onchu. I don't know if he's suffering from maybe the added pressure that we're heaping on him, Lewis. Maybe, I don't know. But what do you think about him?
Dennis, well, he's I've mixed opinions on him, shall we say. He's a very ambitious rider. Sometimes it makes some questionable moves, I think it's fair to say, on him. And I think if he can, rein that in a little bit, he can start showing his potential for Moto2. I think he does have enough talent. It's just keeping a cool head and not making some ridiculous moves and some moves that, it's pretty unprecedented, to be honest, such as what we've seen at the American round last year in Moto3 with the weaving in a straight line. It's just things like that. Silly mistakes and silly things that really shouldn't be happening at Grand Prix level. So, yeah, I think he's definitely got the talent. It's just his head is needing to calm down a little bit still.
Interesting. Very diplomatic of you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, well, if that's everything from Moto3, then we can sweep that and put it in the bin for now till Silverstone. And talking about next here on the Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio, World Superbikes. Yay! What's the latest big? We've already talked about Mackenzie and stuff, but what other news is erupting from World Superbikes, Lewis?
Anyway. World Superbikes, Bautista renewed his contract with the Aruba Ducati squad once again, of course, leading the championship this year. So he's finally, he's got a ride in the pocket for next year, so maybe this might calm him down towards a championship contention. And Jonathan Rea, there's been some talk for a while that potentially could or should even leave the Kawasaki squad because they are so loyal to him and the results have been raining in. But rolling back to the Bautista thing, look, is it a good move for Bautista to renew the contract, and is this the right move to stay with Ducati?
Yeah, I don't see it going any other way for Bautista, really. It was a obviously 2019 when he was last with Ducati, great start of the season, awful end of the season, jumped ship to Honda when they weren't ready for a rider of his talent, you could say. And now he's back at Ducati and he's doing what he was in 2019 once again. Let's just hope it doesn't end the way he did that year, because Bautista looks like he could run away with us, really.
Yeah, it's looking like it. I mean, right now it's a 36-point gap that he's got over Jonathan Rea, so it's a pretty big lead at the moment. But we see that in 2019, he just, as soon as it almost looked like he had it all wrapped up, everything just unfolded and it was crash after crash and mistakes that you really shouldn't be making winning the championship. And 2019 was quite a confusing season for, I think, everyone watching, just seeing a downfall of a rider that quick. He's had quite a tough few years, so it's great seeing him back up front and doing what he should be doing, really. And yeah, he clearly suits at Ducati and has a teammate that now is starting to come to the forefront of Michael Ruben Rinaldi. He's showing some potential, especially at Misano, which obviously has went good at in the past. But yeah, I mean, is there... Well, we've talked about Alvaro signing. Do you think, Michael Ruben Rinaldi is the best person to have as his teammate?
Michael Ruben Rinaldi. He is massively inconsistent. No, I wouldn't say I hate him. It is the thing of he is massively inconsistent. I don't think he's ever really had a very consistent year. He always goes one round where he does really well, the next round he'll be fighting to stay in the top 7, or even if you look at Assen, there were times and Estoril where he was fighting for low end points compared to Bautista. So there is the thing of Rinaldi may not be the best man to be alongside him, and maybe look at someone like Axel Bassani, who is on a satellite Ducati team and is 8th in the championship, 2 places behind Rinaldi. So I'm going to say no, personally.
Yeah, somewhat agree with that, to be honest. It's just when Michael Ruben Rinaldi is on form and is showing his pace on the weekend, he is a pretty incredible rider. But yeah, he is slightly too inconsistent, I would say, for factory slot. And yeah, it's just consistency. Once again, we've talked about Alvaro Bautista. It's just consistent, which really matters in the championship. And Bassani's shown some great results and consistent results, just like Iko Okona this year on that Honda, which, as you said, it wasn't ready for Bautista, which I would agree with. The bike just wasn't there yet, and now Iko Okona's getting the results coming from MotoGP, and he's consistently been in the top 10 most races, which is probably exactly where he needs to be at the moment on that bike. So yeah, I mean, it's a hard one for Ducati, because just like Alex Bassani, Ruben Rinaldi has shown some incredible pace on that satellite bike and shown the potential to go into that factory seat. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of years for Ducati, and especially if Alvaro can win the championship this year. Could he potentially move? Could another squad such as Kawasaki maybe look towards him to help develop that bike once Jonathan leaves? Obviously Jonathan is getting on age, so will Jonathan stay at Ducati till retirement or potentially leave before that?
Yeah, obviously.
I was going to throw a name at you. Will Jonathan Rea decide to leave Kawasaki, potentially to Ducati, since you brought up Alvaro's teammate? Could we see that? There's been talk of it, and he hasn't got a contract signed yet, like Alex Lowe's has. There is a slot open at every factory team other than Yamaha at the moment, so he could go to, and let's be honest, any team will want Jonathan Rea on their bike at the moment. So Ducati, they could go for him. It's something that could happen. Stranger things have happened in bike racing.
Not many. When he's so synonymous, when like pretty much all of his success has come with the one manufacturer, it's almost unthinkable.
Well, is a move back to Honda a bit too outlandish, since that bike seems to be improving? Could Jonathan see himself back on that bike? Because he's more talented than Iko Okona, and Ike Lecuona is in his rookie World Superbike season and is 5th in the championship, which is a difficult thing to do since the riders behind him have got such talent. And could that be an interesting prospect to Jonathan to go back there?
Lewis, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just reading a quick article actually in an interview of Jonathan that he did with WorldSuperbike.com, and he was just saying the fact that he hasn't actually properly sat down with Kawasaki yet to discuss 2023, and that he is excited about the season, but he's also nervous about 2023. So right now it just seems that he's focusing on the championship, but I think if he was to leave, there's a potential of, as Luke said, maybe a Honda or Ducati, but he's quite on, well, age-wise, he's quite on in his career, so it's whether, although he is talented, will he have enough years on that bike to probably get the best out of it?
Well, there's an interesting question.
Yeah, what's he now? Is he
38?
30? Yeah, I was going to say 38. Yeah. He's around that age. So in bike racing terms, he's coming towards the end of his career. But obviously he's still second in the championship and still fighting for this championship. But I do believe if Toprak can catch him and pass him in the championship, then and Jonathan finishes third, then maybe the thought in his mind of the potential to leave Kawasaki, because he's never been third in the championship with Kawasaki, but that's if Toprak and Yamaha can pull themselves together, which it seemed like they had in Misano, and to actually catch the 6-time champion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, whenever the new version of the Kawasaki came out, they were kind of up in it really and saying it was going to get great results, it's going to be better than the previous bike, but obviously they weren't allowed the extra 500 revs, especially whenever it first came out, they were told no, and we really started to see some little cracks from Jonathan Ray, some mistakes and some unforced errors that we haven't seen before, and some slight slip-ups, which is also not helped with the fact that now World Superbikes is as competitive as it probably ever has been the past 10 years. And now we're starting to see some incredible racing from 3 different manufacturers. So I think Jonathan, with the age that he's at and with the relationship that he has had with Kawasaki, it's going to be a questionable move if he changes at this stage in his career and changes to a different motorcycle that I think will take him 2 years at least to start becoming a championship contender on.
Interesting prospect there. I've just been having a quick look at maybe, I don't know, going to Donington for the next round. It is definitely the next round, isn't it? I'm not being stupid. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
just
July.
checking. Yeah, exactly. Just been on the World Superbike website to go and find some tickets, and guess what? You can't. Directs you to the MSV website. Nice. Well, when I say directs you to, there's no link whatsoever. You have to make your way. Anyway, if you wanted to go and buy some tickets, and let's say you've got some money, which nowadays, well, it's not guaranteed, but let's just say you've got some money and you want to go and check out the World Superbikes at Donington Park and find out what value for money things are. £60 weekend admission, which is great value for money, I would say. Top tier event and all. However, if you have one of those young people under 13 years old, apparently they go free. You might have to prove that they're young. So yeah, I don't think you can sneak in anymore, Lewis, as an under 13. You probably.
Yeah, I probably pass for that now.
But they do have a teenage person ticket prices. But again, Lewis, you're just a little bit too old for that, I'm afraid. But anyway, so let's just say me and one other adult, and let's say, I don't know, to a family ticket as one teenager goes and add a basket. I'm going through the order. I'm not actually going to buy these, for God's sake. Do I want to sit in a grandstand? Well, I would like to sit, yes. I'm not standing up all weekend. 20 reasonable pounds for a seat. But mind you, that's for the whole weekend. No, wait a minute. £35 for a seat for the whole weekend. How amazingly reasonable is that? And then we need to have 3 seats because there's like 3 fictitious people going in my family. That's £100 for seating. God. That's okay. I can afford it. Yeah, whatever. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. What does that say there? Let's going on to the next page. We're just going through the ordering process and finding out, oh no, we can't camp. So it's also, how much? That's very reasonable. £120 for camping. I've never seen such amazing prices. Yeah. Well, I mean, to go to a top-tier world-class event, Luke, I mean, obviously, you've got to fork out a little bit of money, haven't you? Or a lot.
Yeah, it's not as much as the MotoGP, obviously, but
when you
get where you're coming from, but
you did BSB as at Silverstone as a proper tourist. What was that weekend like for you?
It was a really good weekend. Good racing. Got sunburnt. Yeah, I had a very, very good weekend at Silverstone.
Okay. What was
Can't remember how much it cost.
Yeah, what was the other bit of the experience like? Because I think you and your dad was bumped into you while you bought £10 for parking. Oh my God. I mean, for example, did you? I presume you went to park there, didn't you? Did it cost £10 to park at Silverstone?
No, parking was free. Yeah.
£11 for a radio. That's not an approved motorsport radio, though. At World Superbike.
I never get radios at events.
No, you can just listen to the PA. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Pit walk. Oh, they've sold out of a pit walk. Oh, that's a shame.
I wouldn't bother getting a grandstand either at Donington.
No,
to be honest.
Well, I mean, if you're there for the whole weekend,
just bring camping chairs with you. I'm not being funny, but Donington's grandstands aren't as good as Silverstone's. Let's put it that way.
Not as needed.
I'm sure. They sent me to the full thing, so I'm not going to sign in. Does it take me to like a basket of tell me what my costs are? The whole thing. Yes, it does. £166 of total reasonable for 3 people, though. I mean, for a world-class top-tier event. I'm going to offer no opinion on that, but I'm going to ask you, Luke. 3 people. Grandstand seating at a world championship, and it's not been as competitive as it has been this year for many, many years. To take your whole family, 2 adults and 1 teenager, seating for 3 as well, including car park, £166. Well, I mean, compare that to Formula 1 and MotoGP, that is actually quite reasonable, isn't it? Is it? Lewis, maybe you can help me out.
Yeah, I would probably say so in the UK anyway. Because, well, I've actually booked a trip to Spain to go watch the MotoGP in Valencia at the end of the year. And the tickets for that, the tickets alone just for the race entry were only €52 grandstand for the whole weekend off the official MotoGP website. So it just seems to be prices in Britain are far higher because I believe MotoGP 3-day general admission is something like £95 per person. So yeah, it just seems that our prices are slightly higher than some other countries. But for a world championship event, I don't think that's too bad for the whole weekend.
Well,
especially compared to F1, where it's about £300 for just general admission.
I don't know off the top of my head what it is for Silverstone this weekend in Formula 1, but we've just been through the ordering process. Tickets are still available. Amazing that it's not sold out yet. But yeah, World Superbikes, and to have it at Donington this year, And it would be good if it could be near to or actually at capacity crowd, because when Donington is full, wow, it really does make a World Championship a fantastic event. As well as you've got the Sidecar Championship at the weekend, you've got the World Supersport Championship as normal, and the Ducati Cup, yay! And also the British Junior Supersport Championship. People are going to be racing as well. And off the top of my head, I completely forgot who's riding in that. So apologies. Lewis, you might know.
What, in the Junior Supersport?
Yeah.
A few names. Katie Hand, the GP3 Thunder Sport champion, was going to be racing again. Keel Walker, Scottish rider. Quite a big grid, to be honest, and quite a lot of teams to be and to finally get the opportunity to showcase British racing, really, because it is probably one of the best championships apart from the Talent Cup. Obviously. I would say to bring as a support championship, as obviously Talent Cups are meant to be the talents of the future, but certainly for showing British motorcycle racing, which is usually more production based, it's going to hopefully bring it to a slightly wider audience that may be travelling to Donington Park to go watch some World Superbikes. I
think Harry Cook is in the Junior Supersport as well. I think, yes. He's always one to watch. Always a good shout. And they actually round out the entire weekend. If you're at Donington, they're the last race of the day on the Sunday afternoon, July the 17th. Check it out. Go and attend, or you can watch some fabulous coverage on Eurosport. There you go. I mean, I'll be busy that weekend, so I actually won't be going. I'll be doing other motorsport stuff. But, I mean, Luke, you're just down the road-ish.
Yeah, I spoke about it with my mate to potentially go out for the Sunday, but we don't know if we will yet.
Yeah. See what the weather's like. Exactly. Yeah, so there you go. Top consumer advice. And that, I suppose, unless we've got anything else to talk about.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Pretty much ends the show. Yeah, there's nothing else to say. Thank you very much, Luke Newman, for struggling with your totally not intermittent internet at times. It's all right, we didn't even know you were gone.
Sounds all right.
He's actually, he's more furious about that than he's letting on. And Lewis, thank you very much as well for your internet up in Dumfries. Yes. Check out Motorsport Radio all weekend, or the Fab Racing social media channels. We've got live coverage all weekend of the Road to MotoGP Championship Fab Racing. It's the only place in the UK that has the Road to MotoGP status. And it's the only place where you can see and watch all of next season's up-and-coming talents in the British Talent Cup. All the new riders get to know from the grassroots level who the ones to watch are from the future. Are there any future superstars, world champions, British champions? Is there another Casey O'Gorman racing this weekend? Watch it and find out. We'll be streaming it on Motorsport Radio and on the Fab Racing page, and Lewis will be commentating on it as well. Aye there, son. And some such general Scottish phrases. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for downloading, listening, podcast, yada, yada, yada. Thank you. We'll do it all again at a suitable time when we're all available. Yay. So thank you. It's Motorsport Radio, Superbike Show. See you again. Bye.
This is Motorsport Radio. Join the conversation. Contact the show on Twitter, on Facebook, and on our website, Motorsport Radio.